Ingredients we're going to need for garlic parmesan knots are as follows. You need 1 can of ready-made biscuits, preferably a 16-ounce can. And next, you're going to be using 1 tablespoon of butter, which we're going to be melting. For the cheese mixture, we're using 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese, 1 teaspoon of parsley, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. So first we're going to be opening up the can of biscuits. In order to do that, you want to find the beginning of the wrapper. There's a little silver tab here, and we're going to start to unravel the can. Once you take the wrapper off, you're going to squeeze and give it a little twist. And the biscuit can is going to pop open. At this point, you're going to take all of the biscuits out, place them on your mat, and we're going to separate all of the biscuits. Okay, so we've got 8 biscuits in total in this can. So at this point, once all of the biscuits are separated, we want to roll these biscuits into a rod shape. So you're going to take each biscuit and roll it out into a rod shape or like a little snake shape. And you want to try to get it anywhere between 6 and 7 inches long. But you want to be careful not to overwork this dough or not to touch it too much, because the more you touch it, the more the biscuit dough is going to warm up and then it gets sticky. Okay, so at this point, when you get it to this rod shape, you're going to pick it up and you want to make it into a U. And then we're going to crisscross the ends so it looks like an awareness ribbon. And then you'll take one end and you're going to push one end through the little loop or a little hole there to make our first knot shape. And you're gonna continue to do that for each one of the biscuits individually. So here are all of the knots once they're shaped, and I placed them on a parchment lined baking sheet. Notice that they're about 2 inches apart from each other, and that's going to allow room for them to rise in the oven while they bake. The knots into the oven. We're gonna let them bake. I'm gonna take these knots out of the oven. And at this point, we're going to start making the cheese mixture and melting the butter. So once the knots are out of the oven, it's time to make the Parmesan cheese and herb mixture. So all of these ingredients are going to go into a mixing bowl. So here are all of the herbs and cheese in the bowl. We're gonna give it a quick mix with a whisk until well combined. And here is the cheese and all of the herbs combined. At this point, the next step is to melt the 1 tablespoon of butter. I'm gonna put this in the microwave for about 10 seconds. So here's the butter once it's completely melted. I'm gonna take a pastry brush, dip that pastry brush in that melted butter, and I'm going to brush each one of the garlic knots. So it has a nice little coating on it. I'm gonna continue to do that on each one of the knots. And I'll show you what that looks like once I'm done. So here are all the knots coated in the melted butter. At this point, we're going to go back to the cheese mixture, and we are going to sprinkle some cheese mixture on each one of the knots. So you want to evenly distribute this cheese mixture. The melted butter is going to act like a glue to help the cheese mixture stick to the knots. So I'll show you what this looks like once I'm done. So here are all of the knots coated in that herb cheese mixture. I used all of it, evenly distributed them, and now they're gonna go back into the oven for about 2 to 3 minutes so that cheese can melt into the knots. So here are the knots going back into the oven for about 2 more minutes. I'm gonna close the oven door. Now I'm gonna set my timer. 2 to 3 minutes so that cheese can melt into each one of the knots. So I'll show you what that looks like once they're ready. All right, so here are the garlic parmesan knots out of the oven. Notice they are nicely golden and the herb cheese mixture is now baked into each knot. At this point, you would let them cool and then you can enjoy.